Hello, everyone. Babula and I are back to record another episode of Astrology now. And we've just been whinging about how Uranus is just disrupting everything. We don't like it at all.
No, no, I have a very full day today. No major issues with that. It's just a full day. And then my camera, the little camera that I have on my laptop here, died on me. So then I had to run around and get myself a new camera and I plugged it in. That's why I'm in a different room. It just wasn't working in the other room, was it? It was just all these weird wavering lights and
It's very, very strange. Very strange.
yes. So then
But that's to be expected, isn't it, with this moon?
that's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. It's very strong Uranus influence on this full moon.
Yeah. And it can stress you out and make you feel anxious too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because when we've got like something planned out and scheduled, like this is what the day looks like, Uranus is masterful at just throwing a spanner in the works and just creating a bit of havoc and chaos. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden you have to, adjust and adapt and change your plans. And
I know. Yeah.
it can be stressful. Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about the full moon in Taurus, conjunct Uranus, and many other things. But you wanted to start off having a little chat about Venus. So why don't you go ahead with that?
Okay, so a couple of days before the full moon, so the full moon's on the 16th of November. On the 12th, Venus, the ruling planet of Taurus and the planet that we associate with love and the feminine principle and expressions of the heart and connections, moved into the sign of Capricorn. So Venus will be in Capricorn now for the next 3 weeks or so. And, that's quite a grounding influence for Venus. And it's like Venus is a relationship planet as well. And so it can feel like more of a sobering influence in relationship dynamics, not just with a partner, just relationships in general, where we can find ourselves having like quite serious conversations or conversations about important, weighty things that need to be sorted out. Practical decisions have to be made, like how are we going to deal with this
Mm,
situation?
mm.
And it's important that the heart be involved in that process.
So there's a sense of having a serious and responsible conversation about some of those things.
Yes,
Mm,
absolutely. And I hadn't really made the connection, but just saying all of that, I'm just reflecting on in the same moment of speaking it. That's actually exactly what's going on in my life right now. Having like with my daughter, having really serious, important conversations
mm,
about the children, right? And certain issues, and we're having to make some weighty decisions and how are
mm.
we going to deal with this? And it's all coming from love, it's our love for them and wanting to
Yeah.
work certain issues out.
Mm,
What are we going to do about it? Okay, if you do this and you make that call and you book that session, it's all of that. And I could
mm,
see that as I was talking about it. So
mm.
that can be going on during this time for people in their relationship life, in their relating life.
Yeah. Mm,
Yeah. Because Venus in Capricorn is more sober and serious about these things.
mm, mm,
Yeah. And
mm.
it's coming from, genuine concern. And what do we do about it? What kind of very real decisions do we need to make here?
So is there a sense of over Venus overcoming the restrictive nature of Saturn there, which rules Capricorn, like that sort of thing? So you're trying to find your use responsibility and serious mindedness in overcoming those sorts of restrictions.
That's right.
Mm,
That's right. So Venus can bring a softening
mm,
energy to the sign of Capricorn. It's a pretty tough sign, Capricorn, in
very.
many ways.
Yeah, yeah.
So Venus does bring a bit of that softening of the heart energy of the feminine. And I often think of like in the world of business, someone's in business, they work for a company or they run their own business. Venus here in Capricorn is very good with that, but it's about bringing some heart energy into that space, and
Mm.
making choices and decisions based on higher values and what would be a good outcome here for everybody that feels good.
Which is not really Capricorn's way, is it?
Not usually. It's pretty hard-nosed quite
Yeah,
often.
very much. Yeah, it can be a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think that's yeah, I'm sort of glad to have spoken all that because it's made me see like, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing right now. And
yeah,
that this is a time to be doing that, making important decisions and working things out.
yeah, yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that'll be Venus will be in Capricorn for the next 3 weeks or so. So through the rest of November and into the early part of December. Um, And then it brings us to the full moon on the 16th, which will be Saturday for us here in the eastern states of Australia. In the morning in Brisbane around 7:30 a.m. is the exact moment.
Mm,
And it's a full moon in Taurus at 24 degrees of Taurus. The moon will be exactly opposite the sun at 24 of Scorpio. So we're still in Scorpio time. And I do enjoy all the scorpionic type of
mm,
memes that show up on social media at this time of year. God, they crack me up. You can have a lot of fun with it. Some
yeah,
of them, of course, are very deep and powerful, but often they're just hilariously funny. And the dark humor of Scorpio, I really quite enjoy that.
I do too. There's a real sense of irony in it sometimes too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's good to laugh at those things, and yeah, not take it too seriously sometimes.
Mm, mm,
So the full moon, is it always in the opposite sign to the sun, and it's like the light of the moon is bringing more awareness to the balancing influence of the opposite sign.
mm, mm.
And it's an interesting juxtaposition between those two signs. They're pretty powerful signs, Scorpio and Taurus.
Yes, very much so.
Very. And they're not messing around. And Taurus is very earthy, very grounded, very practical, I always think of Taurus as being very sensible. There's a lot of Taurus energy in my life around me,
Yeah.
family, friends. I know a lot of Taurian people. And they're just so sensible and practical around, just the fundamental stuff of life
Mm,
in a very physical, very real sense. And it's a sign that's I often love the word fecund with Taurus. It's
mm,
fertile, it's rich, it's pregnant, it's fecund, it's abundant in terms of, the earth and what she provides for us. Look outside and there's trees everywhere and the sun's shining on the
mm.
trees and trees are blooming and birds, it's that abundance of life
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah, like Mother Nature.
Mother Nature, a pregnant woman with a baby. It's very much that energy.
Mm.
And it's a sign of building and builders and farmers and
Yeah.
bankers and money, all that kind of physical,
Mm. And it's usually it's stable, it's
very
a stabilizing influence to anything except when it conjuncts Uranus with this full
exactly,
moon. Yeah.
exactly. And so of course Uranus has been stirring the pot in Taurus since around, 2018, 2019, and really shaking up this sign that is all about building stable, solid foundations. And Uranus, like big lightning bolts and earthquakes, has been coming through and really shaking things up,
Well, Uranus in Taurus is uprooting. I like that word
uprooting.
for that particular thing. And
Yep.
uprooting us in our finances too, our
Yep.
homes, our relationships, our work. Um, and it's been going on for quite some time.
Yeah, it has. It has. And, even now, I'm not an expert in these areas by any means, but I do sort of watch. I watch certain markets go up and down and just basic stuff. And I have noticed even in the last few days, I think the big election in the US has been a trigger for this as well.
Mm,
Well, things are moving, things are volatile. They're really on the move and they're changing quickly. And we're going to see that
mm,
over this middle period of November, this influence of this full moon.
mm.
We'll see that. So these things manifest in many ways, but that will be one area
Yeah, yeah. I
that can be
actually,
unpredictable. Yeah.
yes, exactly. And all these disruptions cause us to make decisions then. We have to change what we're doing, which Taurus
Yeah.
doesn't like, but Uranus comes along and goes smack. But it's
Yeah.
also the great awakener, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, it was only this morning, I have to tell you, that someone told me she had decided to leave her husband, and she actually said, I have finally woken up to myself.
Wow. That's
And I
so
thought,
Uranus.
absolutely. And I thought, well, wow, I was preparing notes for this and she was here and she told me about it. And I thought, okay, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just that
Yeah.
just came out of her mouth. I have finally woken up to myself. And sometimes something has to happen for us to have to wake up.
Yes.
Often actually.
Yeah. It can be an event, a piece of information. It can be a little shockwave, that comes in and just in that everything has suddenly changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. So this can be really quite a powerful full moon because Uranus is right on the sun. The
Mm,
full moon's 24 of Taurus. Uranus is at 25 degrees. So it's a really close, tight conjunction
mm,
opposite the sun at 24. And then the polarity of the sun in Scorpio, while Taurus is all about, building stability and security and abundance and all of
yeah.
that in a very earthy way. Scorpio on the opposite side is about the breaking down and the death and the dying and the transformation.
Mm,
And that's such an interesting polarity between those two signs.
yeah. Creating
Yeah.
compost in our life.
The
Or
compost.
yeah, that
That's
we
right.
don't. No, you're not having that. Bye.
That's right. So this full moon can mark over those couple of days some things just suddenly happening in our lives, particularly if those degrees are very significant in someone's birth chart.
Yeah.
It's going to really hit that point. And it can be a small thing, it can be a major thing.
Mm,
And we know life's like that. Sometimes really big things happen just like that.
yeah.
And so we could see some of that, and we can watch events in the world stage. I think there's
Yeah.
going to be a few shock waves around this full moon.
I think it's very destabilizing, and I think what happens is we find we find the like this energy literally pulls a rug out from under our feet, so we're
Yeah,
left standing on shaky ground or shifting sand, so nothing's stable, and we're grasping, trying to get a foothold on what's happening,
yeah,
you know. But I was thinking this morning at the same time that we have these ignitions, I guess, or
yeah,
Uranus, it ignites a spark of excitement
exactly.
to allow the new to enter, you know,
That's right.
because Uranus is all about the new, you know.
That's right. And so your friend who's just, declared, I have finally woken up and I'm out of here and I'm going to change everything.
Yep.
Um, there will be, I mean, it's a big deal to do that, and the process of it isn't always easy, but these kind of experiences when Uranus is active for us, as you said, there can be inside this ripple of excitement because ultimately Uranus is about waking up and being liberated.
Yes. Yep.
And Taurus is all about attachment,
I know.
right? Attachment to how things are and nailing it down and putting your roots down, which is beautiful. I'm not dissing Taurus at all. But the downside then becomes we get so attached, we get stuck, and we cannot move.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's been happening for everyone with Uranus going through Taurus. It's just that this full moon is coming along to actually align with Uranus.
Yeah. And I think too that the moon conjunct Uranus it shines a light on what we can truly rely on or build our foundations on in our life. And honestly, the simple answer is ourself, you
Yes.
know, because that Uranian energy brings that sense of independence. So we become independent of other things or other people,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and stand on our own 2 feet, which, of course, the whole thing is to shake you up and so that you can find a new footing to go on from there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to, connect with new people and new experiences and new ideas and
Mm.
possibilities. That's so, so Uranus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I mean, and it's like it can get down to somebody deciding they might have had a dream for years and years and years to, to have a farm somewhere, and suddenly they just go, that's it, I'm doing it,
Yeah.
which is a Taurian thing, but it's just to change everything up or change their financial situation, Taurus, like they just might go, I don't know what it might be, but they might suddenly make some really radical, different financial choices
Mm.
in
Mm.
how they're managing the money, what they're doing with it.
Mm.
Yeah,
I just want to add on to the energy of this whole thing too. It's like talking about that excitement, it's like a wild exhilaration
yeah,
as opposed to remaining grounded and balanced with
yeah,
the new things that are coming. And, you know, we need to learn how to balance change with security. And my daughter is going through this at the moment with giving up a secure, well-paid job to pursue her cottage business full time,
yeah.
so that she can still earn the funds that she needs to make mortgage payments. And that's not easy, and it's a real leap of faith involved in those types of decisions.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's exactly right. There's this sort of thing between the liberating energy of, her wanting just to be free to run her own business and put everything into that
Yeah.
versus the security of a steady regular income. And many people go through that
Yeah.
that 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 dilemma, that's very much been on, and this full moon will really reflect that. And then there's the Scorpio thing, Scorpio is very much about it's time for something to die, something's coming to an end.
Mm.
So it's a strong full moon, this one. And
Mm.
I just had an image of people going outside and howling at the moon at night. Like, yeah, that kind of feels like that would fit this particular full moon.
Yeah, yeah, earthquake material.
Well, exactly, Cheryl. This is the kind of alignment when earthquakes actually literally
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
There is bound to be some pretty significant seismic activity over this couple of days of this full moon for sure.
Now, if they're with Scorpio in there though, rather than Uranus, you would tend to see, I'm thinking of what do they call it? Sinkholes. That's a bit
Right.
different, isn't it? Going down and
Yes, where the surface layer of the earth just collapses.
yes, that's different to this type of energy. Which
Yeah.
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 Mm.
Just a really simple image of Uranus conjunct the full moon in Taurus is imagine, a big electrical storm. We've had a few of those here
Mm.
lately,
Mm.
and a bolt of lightning can just strike a tree and just
Mm.
split it in half,
Mm.
and the tree might come crashing down on a house.
Mm.
That's dramatic, but this full moon has that kind of energy.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's no way you can really plan for something like that.
Yep. Mm. I know
Um,
someone that happened to actually.
right.
Struck by lightning, went on the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, the full moon is also making a trine aspect to Pluto, to our friend Pluto, the Lord of the underworld,
Mm.
the Darth Vader of the zodiac, which is at 29 degrees and 55 minutes of Capricorn.
Mm.
So, we've been talking about this for some time. Pluto is now coming to the very, very end of the sign of Capricorn for the final time.
Mm.
And it's making like a trine, a harmonious 120-degree connection to this full moon. So it's
Mm.
quite powerful.
Mm. Mm.
It's quite a powerful full moon. And I think we're likely to see in the world some significant earth movements.
Mm-hmm.
There could be some big things happening politically, like resignations, perhaps some leaders being toppled, um, kind of big moves in the geopolitical landscape
Mm.
of various countries in the world. Australia's moon, I meant to look at it up before from memory. I think it's around 20 degrees of Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty close to this full moon as well. And, it can affect, the farming land, the production of food, the financial institutions,
Mm.
money issues, banking, all of those kinds of things.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. It could also be for someone who's perhaps getting older in their life and they might have a fairly large piece of land or a property with a big garden that they've spent many years working, growing food, and they come to a point where they realize it's too much. I can't
Yeah.
cope with this anymore.
Yeah.
I need to downsize. And the choice to do that might appear to be very sudden, which is Uranus, like
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like your friend, all of a sudden,
Yeah.
she's made this decision, but is it really all of a sudden? It's probably been the groundwork has been laid for some time, but
Yes.
there's a moment where it's just, and
It
I
just,
remember that I've had situations where there is a moment we just go, I can't do this one more day. And you
yes.
act on it immediately in that moment.
Yes.
It's like a flash, isn't it?
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's very Uranus.
Yeah. Mm. The nervous system. Eek.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because it's very often it can disrupt sleep. It can be a little stressful, so we can use the Taurus energy to try and stay, a bit grounded and
Grounded. Yeah.
earthed.
Especially if you're prone to anxiety or panic attacks and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as I started to discover when I gave that talk at your group, Strange
Mm.
Encounters, a few
Mm.
months ago, when I was doing all the research, as I said to you, I kept seeing all these people who've had these huge experiences. And I kept seeing, oh my God, look at all the Taurus in the chart. Taurus. I kept seeing all these people who've had these massive experience of, at the time of shock, but I was seeing Taurus in all of their charts in some way. And it made me feel that what I was seeing in that was they need to have some level of groundedness in their being, in their nature, and in their life to be able to hold that huge thing that's just happened to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Grounding is really, otherwise we can literally lose the plot and end up in a state of mental
Yeah.
disconnection,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So Taurus is very, very important for grounding. And it can be as simple as, doing the dishes, taking the rubbish out, cleaning up after a rainstorm, just keeping your eye on the practicals while this big energy is doing its thing.
So with that Uranian energy, there seems to be a sense of it coming from external, our external environment. But what about these like what was I going to say there? I think I've lost my track, but spontaneous um yes, I've lost my track. Forget that story. It'll come back to
Do
me.
you mean spontaneous awakenings or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
That just happen.
Do you know, as you say that, I'm remembering, and I didn't follow this story up, so I don't really know much about this person, but some years ago, it was said in spiritual communities that there was an example of a woman in America, if this is a real person, who was, if I remember, she was about to step onto a bus,
Mm.
and her consciousness just in a moment just blew open,
Mm.
and suddenly everything was completely changed.
Mm.
And she hadn't done any of, often we think we've got to do years of meditation and psychotherapy and work to prepare the ground for that.
Mm.
But I would suggest that she had done that over many lifetimes. And seemingly there was a moment. Be interesting if I could find that person. I'd love to look at the chart and see what was going on with the transits in that moment. Because why in that moment, as she's just stepping off the curb onto the bus, boom.
Mm. Yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
people talk about these Kundalini awakenings, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. That's right. And like Buddha, it was said was a Taurian.
Mm.
And, as he sat under the Bodhi tree and just sat there and he didn't move, this, incredible cosmic awakening occurred after he'd done all that effort previously to sort of reach that point. He finally gave up and he just sat there and he said, I'm not moving from this spot, even if I die here.
Yes.
And it was in just stopping, which is very Taurus, and just allowing yourself to just be there, everything happened. It's kind of very, very Uranus in Taurus to me.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, grounded, being able to hold those big cosmic energies. And the Scorpio part of that is dying to who you were before.
Yeah.
There's the death process of Scorpio.
I think the willingness to do it too is a factor.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
So yes, it's one of those full moons that, we astrologers and anyone into interest will be paying attention. And it's both, what's going on around us and in the world, but in our own inner experience, how am I experiencing this? What am I seeing in my personal life?
Yes. And just something else I want to add there too is those people who don't follow the UFO news like I do, with all that Uranian energy, tomorrow, Australian time, is yet another congressional hearing in the US on the UFO issue. So I expect, and we'll talk about this a bit in this one, but we're going to do a single episode next week about Pluto in Aquarius. We're going to see a lot more cosmic, galactic, extraterrestrial information coming out too, and changes that in our society about that. Yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And because that will be for many like a massive shock and an absolute disruption of the reality,
Mm.
staying grounded. See, that is such an, otherwise people can lose the plot,
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
and so it's very important to stay as grounded as whatever that means for people. Everyone has that, does that in a different way and experiences that in a different way.
Well, I've seen that over and over the last 36 years where people see something that they can't explain out of the blue, very
Yes.
Uranian, and they run around and go, oh, I'm going to call Channel 7. I'm going to, I've got to get onto the ASIO about this, or why isn't the American FBI doing something about this? Or, they just go a bit crazy, you know,
Yeah,
because it is, it's shifting the paradigm,
absolutely.
which is really what Pluto's going to do when it goes into Aquarius.
It certainly is. It
Yeah.
certainly is. And this is a full moon. Isn't it interesting that this is the full moon? Um, just double, yes. This is the last full moon
Yep.
before Pluto moves into Aquarius.
Yep.
The new moon occurring 2 weeks later happens after. So this is like the last sort of lunar
Yep.
peak of the lunar cycle, and it's very so Uranian, and Uranus rules Aquarius. Isn't that fascinating?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in Taurus, so I think there's a message there, to kind of keep it real, but be open to pretty much anything can happen.
Yes, yeah. And I'm just going to say one more thing on that. We were having a chat yesterday, I said to you, I'm so surprised that more astrologers, actually any astrologers, aren't picking up on the cosmic galactic issue where Uranus is concerned. I do not understand that. Hmm.
Yes, and I I'm suspecting that there are some who quietly do, but they're not
Talking about it, yeah.
kind of publicly expressing that,
Yes, yep. But
you know?
when Pluto goes into Aquarius, I think there's going to be a big shift in astrology.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more.
Yeah, the old way of doing things is going to change.
That's right. That's right. And there's a lot of young astrologers coming in, brilliant young astrologers coming through that will perhaps be more in alignment with those kinds of things and energies and experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, very interesting time, very interesting time. It's just we're kind of on the edge of our seat, like watch this space.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So now, while we're still on the full moon, this really powerful full moon on the 16th, on exactly the same day, Saturn begins to turn direct. So Saturn will be stationary. So he's been moving in retrograde motion. He sort of nudged 20 degrees of Pisces,
Mm-hmm.
turned back 5 months ago, retrograde back to 12 degrees of Pisces. And on the day of the full moon, Saturn stations or stops. The planets don't stop and change direction. But from our perspective on Earth, when we look
Mm-hmm.
at the sky, that's what we see them do. And so Saturn will be very present.
Mm.
When a planet is stationary, its energy is very strong, actually. And so that's a fascinating thing to me that that is happening on the very day of this very Uranian full moon.
Mm-hmm.
And in a water sign, the sun's in Scorpio, Saturn's in Pisces. So it's one of those days where it's hard to say, it's hard to know. Both of these things are very significant and they're very different.
Yes, and yeah, and I think that I'm not surprised that it's happening on the same day because, and I'm speaking from my UFO background, I think there's been a lot of dreams and hopes about bringing the UFO subject into more people's consciousness. So I think that Saturn, when it's direct in Pisces, it brings some clarity to us so we can crystallize those hopes about disclosure into material reality, which is
Yeah,
actually what's happening
yeah.
with another hearing.
Yes, yes. And it keeps bringing that subject forward, doesn't it?
Yes.
It just keeps coming forward. It keeps
Yeah.
coming forward, and more people are beginning to open to it as a possibility and a reality. And we can see that. And of
Mm,
course, next year in 2025, there's some big energetic shifts taking place with the planets.
mm,
Really, it's going to be very different energetically to the way what we've been going through in these last few years. Very different energy.
mm,
And one of them will be Saturn will be and Neptune begin to make them move into Aries.
mm.
And then they'll slip back into the last part of Pisces, and then the following year they'll both fully move into Aries. That's always a big shift into something entirely new.
So with Saturn direct in Pisces, does that bring more clarity?
It will. Whenever Saturn, after a period of retrograde motion, starts to move forward again, and it can take him a week or so to really
Mm,
get that energy moving. But if we're sensitive and paying attention, we can feel it on the day.
mm,
Um, when Saturn then turns direct, we do have a feeling of more clarity. Oh, I can see the way forward now. Okay, now I can see what I need to do. Or when like I have a big long list that I keep adding to and I can't get it of just administrative things I need to do, phone calls I need to make, things I need to sort out and organize. And the list keeps growing. And I'm like, oh God, that's if sort of sitting on top of me and I can't get to it. And I do feel that as Saturn gets forward, it's like suddenly there'll be a day or a moment I go, right, cross, tick, 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 and we plow. It's like that. That's a metaphor for this energy. Suddenly we're kind of on purpose, getting things done, moving things forward. While Saturn's retrograde, it feels a bit slow and like we're not getting very far.
yes, you seem to be doing things but not achieving anything.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
Mm,
So that will be really hard. So that full moon's, having said all of that, Saturn beginning to turn direct, and this Uranian full moon is likely to be on that day and for a couple of days afterwards,
Mm.
things can shift.
Mm.
Right? Things can really begin to shift. And some people will feel that as a very positive, liberating thing, like, oh, wow, things are moving now. Great. Others might find it challenging
Mm.
if they're experiencing it as like an unwelcome shock of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Mm. Mm.
shocks aren't always easy for us.
No, and they can make your hair stand on end too.
They can. They can. So
Uh,
Uranus is electrical, it's electricity, and electricity to be used safely and well needs to be earthed, as every electrician will tell you.
yes.
You
Mm.
know, my dad was an electrician. I learned that as a child. And you've got to have an earth wire.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Um, so then on the 18th, Mercury, which is now in Sagittarius, um, makes an opposition to Uranus. And why that's particularly significant is it will be the first of three oppositions between Mercury and, I said Uranus, I beg your pardon, Jupiter.
Uh,
Mercury's in Sagittarius, Jupiter's in Gemini. They're in each other's signs, right?
mm.
Mercury rules Gemini, Jupiter rules Sagittarius. It's like they've swapped territories.
Right.
And why it's important is that there will be two more of those because Mercury will begin to go retrograde
Yeah.
on November the 26th before the next new moon.
Yeah.
So we're coming into a Mercury retrograde period, and before it turns retrograde, it will be in opposition to Jupiter. And that's a lot of buzzy mental energy and information and communication, you know, on all the
Mm.
social media feeds, in the media, our own communications, emails, text messages. There'll be a lot conversations, you know, there'll be a lot happening and it'll be moving very fast. Um,
So does Mercury in Sag, because Sag can be a bit scattered, I know because I am one. Uh, so does it help us become more focused and analytical? Uh,
not so much focus because it will be opposite Jupiter in Gemini, but the mind will be very switched on and moving really quickly, and it can be um, moving from one thing to the next, you know,
mm,
really, really quickly.
mm.
It can be very changeable.
So
It,
basically, words will just be falling out of our mouth.
yes,
Yes.
yes. So it's like I've got a lot to say, and
It'd be very enthusiastically said too.
it's exactly. And Mercury in Sagittarius, you know, loves to blurt out the truth.
Oh God, too brutally honest, very blunt.
That's right. Whether other people welcome that or not is completely
Yeah.
irrelevant. Like it's just spoken.
Yes.
Yeah, and Jupiter in Gemini, you know, Jupiter rules Sagittarius. It is the planet of truth.
Yeah.
It can be like, you know, gathering all kinds of information to shore up your point of view. It doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily mean it's correct.
Yes.
There'll be a lot of opinion expressing going on.
Yes. And believing that you've got it right, like you say.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's very easy for we humans to find quotes and bits of information to back up our opinion,
Mm,
right?
mm.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's right.
Cherry picking.
Cherry picking.
Mm, mm,
That's right. Um, but very kind of very quick. The mind will be very quick and very, very switched on. And as I said, this will be the first of three oppositions
mm,
because Mercury's in Sagittarius and it's going to turn retrograde on November the 26th at 22 degrees of Sag and turn back. So for 3 weeks, it's going to retrograde in Sagittarius.
mm.
So it's spending a lot longer in Sag. So this is and as it does it, it makes three oppositions to Jupiter and Gemini. So it's a big energy going on here around information
Yeah.
and media and communication.
And
And
yeah.
you're right, all forms of communication.
I'm just getting this image in my mind about conversations, where we're just drowning people in words and telling them why their life just doesn't work and which they may not appreciate.
They may not appreciate it.
Yeah, that's that Mercury in Sagittarius.
That's right. But there's another, as you say that, there's another thing about this, the mutable signs and the nature of these two planets is that the positive expression of this is remaining
Mm,
very open to receiving different points of view and information.
mm,
And we were with a group of friends
mm,
yesterday, and there were lots of conversations. And
mm.
while there's a fundamental agreement and energetic in the group, we're all different. And we even talked about this, didn't we?
Yeah.
We don't always agree on absolutely everything, but the connection is strong enough to allow all of that to happen
Mm.
without it turning into an argument. We just appreciate that we can all speak freely.
Yes. And through
That
that, you gain insights.
That's right. And
Mm,
so people are exchanging ideas and sharing information. And then, like, have you heard about this? And, go and check out this person's work on this
mm.
podcast, and I'll send you the link. There's a lot of that going on. I'll
Yeah,
send you the link.
yeah, yeah.
So that's very much this. We have to be very, very open to not necessarily changing our opinion, but open to that as well,
Yeah.
and point of view and receiving new information that can just shift our perspective. I think that's a really healthy. I
Mm,
think it's critical that we all stay very open-minded during all of
mm.
this process that we're going through in the collective.
Yes, and not get so close-minded about anything.
That's right. That's not
Mm,
very, very wise at all. So that's an interesting one.
mm.
Then, of course, on the 20th, and here we could spend a couple of hours just talking about this,
Oh, yeah.
Pluto makes his final exit out of Capricorn, and the whole planet, I think, will have a collective sigh of, we made it through that,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
There is a sense of excitement about that because
There
we
is,
know there's going to be change.
yeah,
We don't know really what the change is going to be like, or in the long run, whether it's even good for humanity. We hope it is, because there's a lot of surveillance in technological
yeah,
surveillance involved in that.
yeah,
Remember that traditional ruler of Aquarius is Saturn, which
that's
restricts,
right.
right? I think
That's
I said
right.
this a few years ago when people started talking about it. Yeah, but you know.
Yeah,
So there's that. But there is a sense of excitement about it.
yeah. And expansion. And I remember earlier in the year, Pluto was in early Aquarius for a number of months.
Mm,
And I remember many of us commented on it, how it felt like there was this kind of energy of uplift. Suddenly everything felt uplifted. We
mm,
come out of something quite heavy. Pluto and Capricorn is heavy. It's been heavy, heavy going.
yeah,
Energetically, it's a really big shift. And yeah, so we'll do a whole session
yeah,
just on that to sort of unpack a lot of that, the pros and the cons,
yes,
and the possible shifts that we can be experiencing in these coming 20 years with Pluto. And it's a big deal, Pluto entering Aquarius.
yeah. But basically, people should expect social upheaval
Yeah,
and transformation.
that's right.
And at times it will be shocking.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Major changes
Mm.
in geopolitical systems all around the planet, our own personal connections with people and friends and community and all of that, and our own mental paradigm, of
Yeah.
like you were saying with the UFO thing, like things are going to happen that people are just going to go, oh my God, I didn't see that coming.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
I
can be
think,
exhilarating and liberating for some, and it can be really quite confronting for others.
yeah, I think we're going to see radical shifts in perspective
Yeah,
right across the board,
yeah,
Yeah. And it's
yeah.
going to happen.
And yeah. And a lot of it's already happening. We're going to see a real acceleration, particularly over these 20 years of real grassroots movements.
Yes. Yeah. I feel we've just been living in the trailer,
Right.
you know. Here's the
Yeah,
trailer of Pluto and Aquarius,
that's right.
But here's the real thing now. Let's click on watch movie,
That's right. So here we go. That's right.
Mm,
And then on top of that, then into next year, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus all change signs.
mm,
Uh, just after Pluto has made this big shift into it. So we're talking about some significant changes coming,
mm, mm.
which, many of us are like, yes, let's go. We've been waiting for this for how many lifetimes?
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Yes, hang on to your hats, little Taurians.
Yes, hang on to your hats. So November the 20th at 6:30 a.m. in the morning, Pluto 0 degrees and 0 minutes of Aquarius.
Mm,
And then on the 22nd, the sun will leave Scorpio.
mhm.
So that's interesting. Well, it comes out of the depths of Scorpio into the vast wide horizons
Yeah.
of Sagittarius.
Yes.
And yes, and Pluto will now be in Aquarius. So it's even that
Mm,
is a change.
yeah.
And then on the 26th, Mercury turns retrograde. And it's always worth noting, it'll be retrograding, doing its retrograde story in Sagittarius. So those who know their birth chart to have a look at what house that's in. So for me, that's in the fourth house of home, of family members, my personal domestic world. So, that's just really helpful for me to know that Mercury is going to be spending quite a lot of time there. So there's going to be important conversations
Mm,
going on. And things happening with family members, not only those I live with, but
mm.
outside of that as well. So yeah.
Well, I just want to reiterate what we covered last time briefly, which is about I'm glad that we're moving out of Scorpio, or will move out of Scorpio season and move into that more, lift us up into that lighter, free-spirited vitality, ready
That's
for
right.
fun and adventure, which is what we do around heading towards December, isn't it? Thinking about holidays and
Yeah,
Christmas and family and
yeah,
all that sort of stuff, and prepared to and socializing,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's an
traveling.
uplifting, yeah, travel and
Yeah.
having some fun, and it's a very adventurous sign. And Sag is fundamentally very positive. I know a lot
Mm.
of Sag, yourself included, and their fundamental outlook on life is positive. They will, even when difficult things are going on that they have to deal with, pretty quickly they get to the positive
Yeah,
of
they
that.
bounce back really quickly.
They bounce back quickly and they keep their sights on the silver lining,
Mm.
and they're always hopeful, like, yeah, but I know it's going to be okay,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So we feel that energetic change and that uplift of positivity when the sun goes into Sag every year.
Yes, yeah. I love it. I just love that. I love December,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole thing
yeah,
because the energy shifts
yeah.
and you can feel it. Yeah.
And it's like home, your home space, like your own natural expression. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
exuberant, it's fun, yeah.
yeah, and as a kid, I loved Christmas, but I loved all of December
Right.
because, things start to change in our environment too. You see the shops put up, you see Christmas trees and decorations and kids buzzing around those, and
Yeah.
people get a little bit busier because they're out
Yeah.
Christmas shopping, but it's a real sense of lightheartedness and going into a really nice
Yeah.
season.
It can, yeah, I know you do. You feel that. I do too. The closer we get to Christmas, I do feel that. The sense of celebration. It's in the air, it's in the atmosphere.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it.
Mm,
Until, of
yeah.
course, Capricorn enters and go, okay, it's over now.
Right. Back to work,
Do it while
everybody.
you can. It
Well, that's exactly right.
disappeared off the screen, Babula.
I think I banged the table and I knocked the camera.
There we go.
Yes, my new camera, it's still settling in. Is that
Yes.
better? Is that
Yep.
okay?
Yes.
Um, so then that brings us to the 1st of December, the new moon in Sagittarius.
Mm. Mm.
Yep. And soon after that, Mars will turn stationary and begin to move retrograde. December the 7th, there's quite a lot of different things happening. Ceres, the great mother goddess asteroid, the most important. She was reclassified by astronomers back in 2015 as a minor planet.
Mm.
And so Ceres and Venus on the
Mm.
same day move into Aquarius.
Ah,
Same day that Mars turns retrograde in Leo.
okay.
Yeah, and then the following day, Neptune turns direct. So there's a lot of changes of energy coming through. Like it can get complex because there are different energies as they're all moving. But life is complex. We're complex. It's all complex, really.
And so on the world stage, we've got this new president in America, and then we're heading towards the
That's
inauguration,
right.
people trying to get in his way. But like that is going to have play a big part in that Pluto and Aquarius too, isn't it?
It
It's
it sure is.
yeah, because that's going to have
Fascinating.
effects to other countries.
Oh, absolutely. What happens in America has a huge influence on what happens in many countries on this
Yeah,
planet.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So it's fascinating to watch all of that story. Really.
Mm.
So, astrologers sort of glued to the and
Yes,
they've got
looking
their charts out and
looking over a day at a time on this.
I know, like what's happening now, and I know it's really fascinating. It
Yeah.
really is, and you learn so much astrology, and you when you watch these things playing out, because you can
Mm.
see it. There it is. It's live right in front of us, and
Yeah.
in our own life as well.
Yeah.
I call it living astrology. It's not just these are not just abstract ideas. We literally experience it.
Yes.
It's alive.
I think people hear the word astrology and they think of the horoscope in the newspaper or the old newspapers. It's
Yeah.
dying out. And they also, people who look at it, who we are interested but and look at it briefly, just see a lot of lingo and numbers, and they go, "Oh, I'm no good at maths," but actually, it's not that hard.
Not.
It's really not that hard once you actually get the basics.
That's right. You just get the basics of how it works, and it's actually not complicated mathematically, unless you're teaching people how to do all the calculations by hand, which
Yeah,
we originally did before we all had computers.
which we don't
But
have to
still,
do.
that's just a method. It's a methodology, and you just go through step by step and you
Mm.
follow the steps. And yeah,
What I really enjoy about it is looking at what's coming up.
I know. I
That's
know.
and I'm also very interested in medical astrology too, so I like to look at
Same.
my own health, other people's health, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, me too. I've always been fascinated in that.
Mm.
So that's the lay of the land, so to speak, or the lay of the skies, affecting the lay of the land over the coming couple of weeks.
So now you're doing a webinar
I am.
for all the changes that are coming up next year.
Yeah, it's a
So how
3 hour Zoom webinar on December the 4th. Um, it'll all be, recorded. There'll be replays. So it's always nice if people are there for the live. Otherwise, I'm not talking to anybody. But
mm,
that's fine. Most people just get the replay, but some people like to be there for the live, and we can have a bit of a discussion then.
yes.
Um, but I'll go through everything, all the different things that are coming up for 2025,
Mm. So
and you'll
this
get the replay to sort of go back over.
so December the 4th, what time?
11 o'clock Brisbane time for
Okay, so
for 3 hours.
3 hours. And how do people get in touch with you about registering?
They can just contact me either through YouTube or find me on Facebook. It's just my name, Barbula Clement, Facebook name.
Yeah.
My website, barbulaclement.com.au.
Mm-hmm.
And they can contact me through those avenues, and I can send them the information of how to book and pay. And so it'll be a few days before the webinar that I'll be sending the Zoom link out to everybody.
Mm. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I do this every year.
Yeah.
I do an in-person workshop that you're coming to, and that's fully booked out at my place. But I also do a Zoom for people who can't make it in
Yeah.
person.
And do you want to give a plug to the conference in January?
Yeah, it's fantastic. You've only got till the end of November to book.
Mm.
On the Gold Coast on the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, something like that. Those dates in the middle of, across that weekend in the middle of January, down at the Gold Coast. Fabulous conference.
It's Surface
Um,
Paradise, isn't it?
Service Paradise at the Novotel Hotel. Great astrologers speaking, Australian, international astrologers coming over. Lots of choices for different lectures, whatever you're interested in. And because I've been teaching astrology for years, I always encourage beginners. They'd say, "Oh, I probably wouldn't be able to understand anything." But those who went and they were just beginning their learning,
Mm.
they always got heaps out of it,
Yeah, yeah.
and you get to have great conversations with people in the breaks, and
Mm, mm.
it's wonderful. So we're all looking forward to that.
So that's only in person, isn't it? It's not hybrid, it's not recorded.
They're not recording it. No. Well, I think there's normally audio recordings which you can purchase afterwards, but they're
Okay.
not doing the video recording.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so, and that's a big part of it, people coming
Yeah.
together, which is
Mm,
that's the Aquarian way,
mm,
all
mm.
coming together in community, and there's the broader astrological community.
And it's a lovely location too. You just cross the
Yeah,
road and you're at the beach.
you're at the beach.
Yeah, why
So,
not?
so if you're a bit peopled out or your mind's kind of buzzing, you can just go and jump in the sea.
Now, you don't know this, but I plan for you and I to do a few lives from there as well.
I know, I did not know that, Cheryl.
So,
Okay,
yeah, so people can tune in, probably straight to YouTube, I guess, to this channel. And yeah, we'll just talk about some of the things that we've just heard or uh,
great.
what it's like and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So
That is fantastic because this will be your first astrology
it
conference.
will be, yeah, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, you've been to many other kinds of conferences
I
over the
am,
years,
yeah,
but oh, that's a brilliant thing. What a great idea.
yeah. Okay.
Oh, well,
Well,
now I know.
yeah, I forgot to tell you before, but we'll be back in about another week because we'll be recording an episode solely just about Pluto and Aquarius.
That's right.
What we think we could expect to see and how that will transform the face of society. So
That's right.
yeah, so
Yeah,
if you enjoy this episode, please remember to like it because that changes the algorithms. It boosts them so that when people jump onto YouTube, we're closer to people actually seeing it.
yeah,
And that would be great and very helpful. And if you really like it, feel free to share it and subscribe to the channel so you get the notice of each episode. And remember, when you click the subscribe, also remember to tap the bell so you get all
yeah,
notifications.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Babula.
Right. A pleasure as always.
Yes, and I will see you soon at one of your classes.
Yep.
And
And enjoy the Pluto. It's a momentous moment, actually. Pluto entering Aquarius on
yes,
November the 20th.
yes. All right.
Yeah. All
So
right.
until then, everyone, stay safe, be well, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.